Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Welcome to the Revenue Committee.
Thank you.
I think this is the first time this year, isn't it?
This year, yeah.
Yeah, all right.
Yeah. Good afternoon, Chair Von Gillern, members of the Revenue Committee. I'm Senator Megan Hunt, MEGAN-HUNT, and I represent District 8 in Midtown Omaha. LB1150 is a bill that would prohibit any new Imagine Nebraska tax credits from going to any business that contracts with U.S. Customs and Immigration Enforcement, or ICE. This bill does not attempt to restrict the presence or activities of ICE in our state in any way. It is appropriate for us as a lawmaking body to be judicious about which businesses we choose to subsidize, directly or indirectly, at the expense of other crucial public programs and services, especially in a time when our state is reckoning with a significant budget shortfall and making continued cuts to state agency services that many Nebraskans rely upon. I also posit to this committee that the work conducted by ICE is inconsistent with legislative intent and guidelines for Imagine Nebraska incentives. Many of us were here when that landmark bill was passed, and if you weren't, you can easily look up the statutory intent language or find more specific information about requirements for the program on the Department of Revenue's website. Per statute, the Imagine Nebraska Act is meant to, quote, encourage new businesses to relocate to Nebraska, encourage existing businesses to remain and grow in Nebraska, encourage the creation and retention of new high-paying jobs in Nebraska, attract and retain investment in the state, and establish greater program transparency and accountability. I'm sure this committee is intimately familiar with the fact that corporate tax incentives like those in the Imagine Nebraska Act are a major contributor to our state's current budget woes, and placing more selection criteria around which entities are eligible and actually fulfill the mission of the Imagine Nebraska Act is one potential solution. Advocacy for a more discretionary approach to tax incentives is a very conservative viewpoint, and I'm not the only one that holds it. Late last month, our former colleague, State Senator Steve Erdman, had an op-ed published in the Nebraska Examiner titled, "Incentive Programs Are Part of Nebraska's State Spending Problem." In it, he cites research that found, quote, state and local efforts to attract firms to their regions through tax incentives have largely proven ineffective in boosting population or employment. Whatever our views are on ICE, I think it's clear that the activities of ICE are not boosting our population or sustained employment for Nebraskans. Also in late January, former Appropriations Chair Senator John Sinner also had an op-ed published in the Examiner titled, quote, Nebraska has no budget crisis. In it, he shares his views about a number of factors contributing to our budget issues, one of those being the legislature's, quote, gradual chipping away, unquote, of the Imagine Nebraska Act's original guardrails, and saying that the current landscape of the Act's implementation has been made, quote, almost unrecognizable when compared to the bill's original intentions. And just last week, Auditor Foley shared a report and letter to the Department of Revenue outlining his concerns with the Nebraska Advantage and Imagine Nebraska Acts. Foley's findings include that the two programs have resulted in nearly $1.2 billion in lost state and local tax revenue over the past 4 years. His office has found that companies are collecting incentives, then closing their Nebraska operations and eliminating jobs. According to Foley's letter, participating companies have been allowed to uninvest in Nebraska, yet continue receiving incentive payments. Millions of dollars in state and local tax refunds have allegedly been paid to businesses with inactive projects because under current law, a company can earn tax incentives under the Act for a qualifying project with no requirement to maintain or continue the project. This bill, LB1150, simply prohibits any new Imagine Act tax incentives from going to companies that contract with ICE.
Thank you.
It is only forward-facing, so it does not impact incentives that have already been approved. It is our responsibility as the state's lawmaking body to be transparent in how and with whom the state does business, and to rebuild trust with taxpayers by ensuring that businesses eligible for state subsidies that could be used for other purposes are providing a net benefit to the state and operate in a manner consistent with the intent of the Act. LB1150 is one way to do that. Thank you.
Thank you. Questions from the committee members?
I would share that the inspiration for the bill was a Delaware bill that would disqualify commercial airlines from receiving a jet fuel tax exemption if they were transporting ICE detainees. And, I also, it won't surprise any of you that I also thought it was important to do something in our state to address the increased rising use of immigration customs enforcement as kind of a private militia of the president to kind of carry out law enforcement operations that we already have infrastructure to do in Nebraska, that we've seen in other states around the country. And I thought it would be a missed opportunity and a little bit tone deaf if we did not do something in this session to address that. So I know that several bills have been introduced. I have 3. This is my one going to revenue. But I did think it was valuable to have the platform to give the opportunity for people to speak about this. And I just did want to come up to close in case someone did have a question.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Are there any questions from the committee? Seeing none, thank you,
so
Senator
much.
Hunt.